Introduction to Python, simple data types. So we're going to talk about why Python is amazing and talk about some fun things like print functions and variables and all that good stuff. All right, so we're going to start off with just a little bit of information about the study group and what to expect. So whether you're new to the Python language, programming, or computer science, or if you're just looking for a refresher, you're welcome here. So everyone's welcome. It's going to be awesome. We're going to have a great time. We will actively code together in real time. We're going to move at a pace that is slow and steady so we all absorb the material. We're going to encourage others as we learn in a safe and comfortable environment, and we're going to have fun. And I hope everyone has a cup of tea or a drink. I have a bottle of water right here with me, and just make sure you're comfortable and ready to go because we're going to enjoy coding together today. All right, so some information about the study group. So we're going to be learning the essentials of Python programming. Our content session roadmap. So session 1, that's today, yay. And then we're going to be talking about functions. We're going to talk about input functions and just how to get started with functions and why they're important. We'll go into if-else statements, for and while loops, and then functions revisited, where we're going to talk about a concept that isn't always, I think, mentioned in beginner groups. That's parameters and returns. So that one is going to be a must attend for sure, but everything is going to kind of flow like one into the other and whatever. So if you're able to make all 5, that is awesome. Or catch our recordings if you're unable to make something. And then to announce the second part of our study group, we are going to have what we're calling collaborative sessions. And these will implement the concepts that we're learning through these content sessions, but we're going to also cover some additional concepts together with those, such as using a library, recursive functions, using text files, and it's going to be a very interactive, like group coding format. So this is something you're going to hear more about as we work through it. So our content sessions, we have these scheduled for Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern US time, which is what's happening right now. And we're going to meet every other week. So if you register for today's session, you're automatically registered for all 5 of those content sessions. You don't need to do anything except for showing up on the day. And if you're interested in the collaborative sessions, we're actually going to do those on Sundays at 11 a.m. Eastern US time. And this is to allow for those in various time zones to be able to participate. And we're going to have it in August and September. And just so everyone knows, the registration for those is going to be limited because we are going to be breaking up into groups and whatnot. So the registration links will also be separate for each session. And we're going to start, if you attend content sessions, we're going to start giving out the registration links to anybody who attends the content sessions early so you can join. So you can kind of get first dibs at registration in joining us. So we're probably going to be starting that, not this session, but the session that's on the 29th. So be sure to join us. All right, now we're going to do a very brief introduction to Python. So Python is a high-level programming language. It originated in the late 1980s. What's great about Python is it emphasizes code readability by humans, means that it's written in such a way that like you can look at code and understand what it's doing and what's going on. So it's simple, easy to learn syntax. It's powerful and fast. So although yes, it's readable and it's easy, it's really, really powerful. And there's broad application across small and large scale projects. So Python, as you can see, like a lot of different industries and areas are using Python, whether it's data science, artificial intelligence, machine learning, web development, computer vision, robotics. computer graphics, data visualization, game development, scientific and numeric applications, and so many more that I didn't put on this slide. So definitely, if you're interested in these areas or something else, Python is just being used very, very broadly. All right. Just gonna check the Q&A real quick. So somebody asked how long each webinar is going to be. So I'm going to try to keep each webinar to an hour, but there's no promises. We did schedule this block though for an hour and a half. So if for whatever reason we go over or anything, like that might happen. So, well, I will definitely try to keep everything to an hour and a half. Just check the chat. All right. All right, perfect. All right, I think we're good for now for the Q&A, unless anybody has any questions about Python. We will just go right into our live coding. Awesome. So Shubi has dropped the collab link. So today we're going to use Google Colab, which is Google Collaboratory, and it's a notebooks, and we're going to walk through this together. So if everyone could just take a moment and click that direct collab link that Shubi shared in the chat and open it up, make sure you're signed into your Google account because you will need to be. And while those who are planning to use Google Colab do that, I do want to let you know that since most of the code we are writing today will be very brief, I mean, most of the code is just, 1 or 2 lines, or there's a few that are maybe a little bit longer. You can use either your favorite IDE or code editor, or just use the Python terminal on your computer if you prefer. It is probably a little easier to use the Google Colab, but I understand some of you are, very passionate about your IDEs and code editors and would prefer to use that, and that's totally okay. So some of the popular ones, just for everyone's information, are Visual Studio Code, PyCharm, Anaconda, and Sublime Text. And there are several others, Atom and several others. So feel free to use whatever you are comfortable with. All right. Awesome. All right, so I'm assuming everyone has opened the collaboratory. If you have, please give me a thumbs up in the chat, or use a B for a thumbs up to let me know that you are ready to go. And then we will walk through these steps together. Fantastic. Awesome, awesome. Okay, perfect. So if you're using Colab, please click File and click Save a Copy in Drive. And for me, it has opened up something new. And I'm going to close the original. So I'm going to work on off my copy. All right, is everybody good? Everybody still with me? Okay, I'm seeing thumbs up. All right, fantastic. All right, so we are going to write our first Python program. So I wanted to just dive right in on the session and whatnot and do some coding. So this first piece here, it says write a function that prints hello world to the user. And as you can see, I've already included the code in this first code block. And so just go ahead and click that run button and see what happens. Usually it kind of takes a moment the first time. And so you can see it has printed hello world. And so now we're going to move down to this next code block right here. And so we're going to practice writing this code right in here. So we're going to write the word print, and then we're going to use parentheses. And as you can see, because I'm using Collaboratory and most of your IDEs and code editors as well, it automatically gave you that second, the ending parentheses. I'm seeing someone raise your hand. If you have a question, please pop your question in the Q&A or the chat, and we will try to get that answered for you. All right, so now we're going to use an apostrophe, and then we're going to type hello world, exclamation point. And so it should also have an end, make sure it has that ending apostrophe and an ending parentheses. So I see somebody in the chat has asked, how do you get this going in Visual Studio? So like you're going to need to open up like a new project and start coding within that. If you still need help, let Shubi know and she'll be able to help direct you. All right, so once you have that code in here, just go ahead and run that code. And it should look like this. Hello world. Now I also put in a fun congratulations. You wrote your first Python program. Awesome. Great job, everyone. So please let me know in the chat. Give me a B for thumbs up if that worked for you. Awesome. Great job, everyone. Fantastic. Awesome. All right, so as you can see, this program that I'm showing here shows three different components. So you see something with a hashtag. It says write a function that prints hello world to the user. And so this is a comment. And then we also see a print function. So that's the print, the parentheses and the end parentheses. And then we see a string of letters, which is this part here. And so we're going to move into, hold on just one moment. So we're just going to move into the next section and learn about each one. All right, awesome. So comments are readable to programmers and help us communicate the purpose of our code to our future selves and our team. Comments are hidden and will not execute or print out to the user when our code runs. So this is a good way for programmers to communicate with one another. I wrote future selves because oftentimes I look back at my code and I'm trying to understand what exactly is the code doing here, and sometimes it takes some time to remember exactly what you had written, a few weeks ago. So it really is a good practice for that reason to always add always add comments throughout your code. And we're going to use comments quite a bit in this study group. Comments can be added before, after, or even next to or in line with our code. And so here we have just a brief, like write a comment with the hashtag in front. And so we're just going to write a hashtag. You can just write whatever you want, does not matter. And then note that when you click run, it doesn't print anything out because these are all comments. So, yeah. All right, we're going to move on to the print function. So the print function is going to, as it says, print or show data to the user. The print function is written as we talked about, print, parentheses, and end parentheses with the data placed between the parentheses. So, all right, so this first one, we're just going to print a number or integer such as 7. So let's just click the run button for the one that's already done for us. And you can see this is how it looks when you print an integer. And now we're going to try running one ourselves. So just write print, parentheses, just put any number you like in there. It can be literally anything. You can just tap your keyboard and click run. And then you should see that integer here. Is everyone good so far? Fantastic. So for this next one, print a string or series of characters as shown in the Hello World program. So we're going to do this, basically that same concept. So in this example, print, my cat wants to learn Python. she likes to show up when I'm coding and watch me. So, and then I also show an example here just of some different types of characters that you can use with the print function. So just go ahead and click the run button. And you should see something that looks like this. That's right, Rebecca, they do love keyboards. they do love to walk across my computer, especially when I'm in meetings. All right, so let's try writing one ourselves. So we're going to do print, parentheses, do that apostrophe. And I'm just going to write, cats are awesome because I love my cats so much. And you can write whatever you want and hit the run button, and it worked. And then as another example, we can print the result of a mathematical equation. So in this example, print 22 plus 33 plus 100. Let's click the run button, and you can see that the print function, within the print function, it did that math for you. So yay, especially if you don't like math. All right, so we're just going to practice writing one together. So we're just going to write print, parentheses, write some random numbers, plus 22. All right. And you can see that it added up those numbers for me. So is everyone good? Please let me know in the chat. Fantastic. All right. Next up, we are going to learn a little bit more about strings. All right, so strings is a series of characters which can include numbers, letters, numbers, special characters such as exclamation points. We can use the following formats to print a string. So I have some examples down here. So you can do like the single quote format, like with one apostrophe, as we did, as we've done so far. You can do it like a double quotes. So you can see it's like doing a quotation, like for a school paper or whatever. And then you can do 3 apostrophes, which we're going to refer to as triple single quotes, or you can just call them 3 apostrophes. And so we're going to first just look at, I'm just going to. So Rachel, your question, is there a reason behind different formatting? We're going to actually just go into like why you might use some of the different formatting. For the most part, it's kind of just like your personal preference. Some people, I tend to like to write with 1 apostrophe just because it's a little easier on the keyboard, but we're going to go into some examples of when you might want to use use some of the different formats. So we'll start off, when we run the following code, you can see one has 1 apostrophe, you have double quotes, and then you have triple single quotes or 3 apostrophes, but all of these are going to print out to exactly the same result. So when we run that, you can see that it doesn't matter which of these formats we use, they all printed out the exact same result. So we're gonna practice, but this time let's pick something different and let's do like a double quote and what should I say? Let's write women who code. And then when we run that, we can just see that it runs. Not a hell, it says Hello Kitty. Yeah, maybe I should try that. I'll change it. Hello Kitty. And you can see that it prints it out. Awesome. So a lot of this, you know, at this point, it seems probably very repetitive, but I've definitely learned for myself that like just repeatedly practicing is what's going to help us to get very comfortable with our Python programming. Okay. So let's move some things out of the way here. Okay, so here's an example of when you might use like the 3 apostrophes. When it might be like a useful situation. It seems to be kind of rare that you would want to use the 3 apostrophes. However, if you are in a situation where you wanted to use it, this is it. So like in this example, I started with the started and ended with the 3 apostrophes. And then I wrote, started my string, Stephanie says, comma, and then here you can see the "you're amazing" is surrounded by double quotes. And then within the word "your," you have an apostrophe. So like if I decided to put here, if I decided to put 1 apostrophe, it would want to stop the code right here. And so the rest of it would not print out and you would get an error message basically for everything after this. So what you want to do is just make sure you're covering everything. So go ahead and hit run. You can see somebody says, "You're amazing. You guys are doing an amazing job. You guys are awesome." But, you know, if you want to, you can try playing around with it. You know, if you've wanted to see, oh, what would happen, you can see that it just cuts it off. And, oh, I got a syntax error. Oh no, you know, so you can kind of play around with it a little as you want to. And there we go. Now, there is another way of executing this. So if you're just like, you know what, I'm just using the 1 apostrophe and I'm not really minding like what's coming ahead of me, and then you come across one, or if you just find like it's just easier, just this is how you prefer to write your string, that's perfectly okay. So what you can do is use a backward slash. You can see that right here, and that escapes the apostrophe. So basically, as your code is reading and it's going through, it's like, okay, apostrophe, here's your string, and it gets to the backslash, and then it says, oh, I'm just going to just skip right over this apostrophe and just keep on moving until I get to this one, and then the string ends. So we can go ahead and run that, and it says the same thing. And we're going to try doing one, and you can do on your own, you can do either this first example or the second example. Does anybody have any ideas of what I should say here? You can pop it in the chat. So we're going to print. I'm going to do a single apostrophe. And I need a word with either something with quotes. Thanks, everyone. I need something with either apostrophe or quote. Let's see. So I'm gonna do, whoops, backslash, cat's favorite toy is a mouse. Okay, so I did an apostrophe, and then I said, my cat's favorite toy is a mouse. And it really is. I don't even know where she left it, but she had left it underneath my chair earlier for me to find, which was most generous of her. So we go ahead and run that. Ooh, no error. Thank goodness. All right, fantastic. So how's everyone doing? Please let me know how we did. Great. Perfect. And now we're just going to kind of do some fun different things with strings, just to have some fun. So multiply a string by a number. So what do you guys think will happen when I multiply a string by a number? What do you think the result is going to be? Let me know in the chat. Okay, I see someone got it. So, all right, see someone definitely got it here. So it's going to print out hello, hello, hello 3 times, but with no spaces in between. Hello, hello, hello. Very good. Great job. And so like if we decided to add a space after hello and before the apostrophe, it would print out like that with spaces. All right, so now we're just going to practice one. So do print. I don't know if I should stick with the cat theme or move on to something different. Let's see. I'll just do cats. And then we'll multiply by, well, I won't go too crazy. I'll just do by 10. And it prints out cats a number of times for us, just for fun. All right, we can also check the character length of a string using what is called the length or the len function. And this is definitely going to, somebody's already got the answer. So this is definitely going to be a beneficial thing. Like if you were creating like, a chat box or something that had like a limited number of characters, you want to know like how many characters are in that string. So there's many different ways that this can be used. So how it's written is you have print and then you have open parentheses. And you can see that it's open parentheses and the closing parentheses is here at the end. So you're writing within that print function, len, and then you're creating a new print function. Here, parentheses, here's your close parentheses, and then your string inside of that. Somebody asked for this example, why there's a space between the asterisk and a number. There doesn't need to be. It works the same. Sometimes I like to add spaces, other times I don't. So you can do it either. You can do it either way. All right, so let's run this length function, and you can see that it prints out a 6 because in the string here, we have 6 characters, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's practice one together. So we're going to do print, parentheses, len, parentheses, and we'll write new code, or you can write in whatever you would like, and then make sure that it ends as shown here. Click that run button, and we can see that Wimenu code is 14 characters. All right, is everyone good so far? Because we're going to move into a topic that might seem a little challenging at first. And yes, it does count the spaces as well. So the spaces do count as a character in this example. Good call. And round of applause for everyone. You guys are doing so great. All right, so we're going to move into something that, again, it is a little bit, maybe a little bit challenging if you've never seen it before. So we can add together or concatenate more than one string. So we're going to be using concatenation often in future sessions. So this is one that you'll probably want to practice between now and maybe the next session, and just keep practicing until you get comfortable with it. So in order to add strings together, so we do print, and in this example, I did the double quotes. So I wrote hi, comma, and I put a space there, and we'll see why that's important in a moment. And then I did plus, and then I wrote my name, and then I did another plus and an exclamation point, each of the strings in double quotes. So we'll run that, and it says, hi, Stephanie. So you can see here that adding this space in was very important because it put the space here. So if I took that space out, it's going to look like this. So this is what we're going to practice. So down here in this space, let's practice. And you can write in your name, you can write in my name, you can write in your partner's name or your dog or cat's name, whatever you would like. And so just write print. And we're going to use the double quotes. You can use whatever you want, but we're just going to practice using some different things. So we're going to write hi, comma, put a space. Then you're going to have that double quote, hit a space, hit the plus sign, space. And then we're going to do another double quote. You're going to put a name in here. I'm going to put in, can I put in someone's name? Is it anyone okay with me putting their name in? Whoever's first. Okay. All right, hello, Fernanda. Awesome. And then we'll do another space and a plus, space, and then exclamation point. So it should look like this. You have the string of hi, comma, space, a string of Fernanda, and then you have a string with just an exclamation point. And so let's go ahead and run that code, and we can all say hi, Fernanda. Thank you so much for joining us today. All right. So how's everyone doing? Is everyone ready to move on to variables? So somebody posted, they tried concatenating my age is plus the number 20. So we're going to get into that a little bit later. You should be getting an error there, and there's a reason for it. So we are going to come back to that. So thank you for that call out. So somebody asked, why do we do this? So like, as we start to work through the session, we're going to see in what types of situations this is important. So let's continue for time, and we are going to definitely get to that very, very, very soon, actually. All right. Variables. This is like my favorite topic. I seriously love writing variables, like just for fun. Okay. So variables are basically pieces of memory that store our data. When code runs into a variable, Python is retrieving the value assigned to that variable, and then it's using that value for whatever function or task is being executed. So we create a variable by using an equal sign to assign a variable. So this is just, all right, to assign a value. All right, perfect. So there are basically three components of our variable. So with our variable, you're going to have something like name. I just wrote name. This is our actual variable. And then we're using that equal sign. And this is assigning the value, the string value Stephanie to name. So basically, what's happening is you're creating this variable, it's storing this information, and then when you go to print it, or if you're going to use it inside of another function, you might not actually print it, you might instead use it for some other coding that you're doing, and you don't see it, but a lot of different things are happening behind the scenes. So in this example, we're going to create a variable called name and then assign your first name or whatever name you'd like as the value. Then print the variable. A reminder to put your name value in quotes since it is a string. So let's run that. And as you can see, the name equals Stephanie string, print name, results in Stephanie. All right. Who wanted to, let's see, not us next. All right. So we're going to create now a name variable, and then we're going to add the equal sign. And then for the string value, we'll add in a name, and you can choose whatever name you'd like. And then print, and then put name. And then run that. And it prints out correctly. Awesome. All right. Is everyone good? Ready to move to the next stage? Fantastic. All right. So variable names can be either a single letter, a word, or several words separated by underscores, all letters in lowercase. So here are some examples. One is, so the first one here is W as the value. And then I'm writing, you can put whatever you want in the string, but I just wrote W as a single letter. And then women equals women is a word. Women underscore who underscore code. And this is shown in what we call snake case. So that's when you're putting underscores between each word. So, and then down here, I wrote these print functions just so we could see them print out. Because otherwise, if you just wrote the variables in here and then put the print functions, it wouldn't print out to anything. So here we go. All right, so now we're going to practice something. So, what should I create? I don't know why I'm blanking. I had all these ideas. So yeah, I mean, it could do one that's just cat equals kitty, print cat. And when you run that, it prints out kitty. Or you could try something along the lines of cat one equals what's a good cat name? Milo, print cat underscore one. Oh, Garfield, that's cute. We could always do Garfield. So cat one equals Garfield. And you can see that the first print function here printed out kitty. The second print function here printed out Garfield. All right, is everybody ready? We're about to go back into concatenation again. Okay, I'll continue. All right, so earlier we concatenated 3 strings together. So we can concatenate variables with strings, assuming that the value inside the variable is also a string. So if any of the data are strings, then all of these need to be strings. which is why we're going to see in a few minutes how we can concatenate with an integer or float with strings using a very simple function. So that's why we're getting an error with the integers and floats, because concatenation works with strings if we have one string at all. So here's an example. Create a variable and assign a string value to it, then use a print function to concatenate strings and the variable together. We are going to revise our, we're going to revise our earlier, this should say revisit. We're going to revisit our earlier code to replace our names with the variable value. So earlier we actually just put the string value of Stephanie here, but now in this example, we're instead creating a variable called name, and we're storing that name value inside of it. And then we're putting inside the print function that value. So go ahead and run that. And you can see that it prints out exactly the same. Hi, Stephanie. So we're just going to practice an example. So name equals, let me see who was next. I really have to scroll now. I've lost it. I lost who was next. Oh, found someone. And now we're going to print. I use double quotes. Hi, comma, space, plus. Now we're going to just write name, the variable name, instead of writing a string. And then we're going to put in the exclamation point. So go ahead and run that. And then we got it. All right. How's everybody doing now? All right, fantastic. You guys are doing a great job. All right, integers. These are just fun to play with. These integers are just fun to play with in Python. So integers are whole numbers, and that means that there's no decimal points at all. And integers can be either positive or negative, and I gave a few examples here, like 3, 27. I'm not going to read this long number aloud. -10, -234. So all of these are integers. You can see there's no decimal points at all. So in this first example here, we're going to just print 12, run that. Okay, it prints out 12, fantastic. Now let's try practicing one. So print, you can put whatever integer value you like in here, and then click run. Is everyone good so far? Perfect. All right. So in these next examples, we're using integers, but we're creating variables and then assigning an integer value. So in this first example, x equals 10, and then print x. In the second example, I did int, which is int, short for integer. The number 1 equals, and then I put a negative integer number in here and printed that out. And so now we're just going to practice. So I'm just going to write cats equals 2, and then just print cats. Yay. How's everyone doing? So somebody asked a question earlier about this, and yes, this is still concatenation. Oh, you gave an example of commas in between. Yeah, that's an interesting question. I was actually checking with somebody just this week, and yes, technically, if you use commas instead of using plus signs, it is concatenation. Great question. So somebody asked, 2 equals cats. Is that the same as cats equals 2? So like when you're assigning a variable, you're going to put that variable name first and then the equal sign in 2. So if you decide to say instead 2 equals 10, you're creating a variable called 2 and you're assigning it the value cats. Now, unless cats is also a variable, it's not going to process anything. Okay. Okay, perfect. All right, so that's integers. We're going to do a little bit more with integers in a moment. All right, so now we're going to learn about floating point numbers. And so floating point numbers, also referred to as floats or float or floats. A little bit casual, but you can call them that. So they're numbers with decimal points. So floats can also be positive or negative numbers. So here are some examples: 3.1415926. So if anybody recognizes, that's some of the starting digits for pi. 1.0, 100.5, negative 5.5, negative 233.33. So these are just some examples. Well, thank you so much. That's very kind. So in this first example here, we're just going to do print 12.5. And let's just do print parentheses. You can do whatever you want. You can really just have as many digits before or after. As long as it has that decimal point somewhere, you can print whatever number you would like. And now we're just going to move on and do the same thing that we did for integers. So create a variable, assign a floating point number value to it. So in this first example, y equals, could have actually done pi, but even though, pi keeps going on and on and on forever. So y equals 3.1415926. Print y, and you can see that. And then in this example, I used a negative number. I created the variable z and note that decimal point. And so we can, well, we can't use cats here because it's a decimal point. So, and you can do, maybe we can do price equals 19. No, let's just do $20. And then we'll print, and we'll print price. And you can see that it prints out here with 1 decimal place after. So we are getting back to concatenation. Who's excited to do more concatenation? Anyone? Anyone? Okay, yes. You guys are awesome. Great job, great job. All right. Integer and floating point numbers cannot concatenate with strings without first being converted to a string. So we have a handy function to do that. So to convert an integer or float to a string, we can use the str function. So let's go ahead with an example. So in this example, create a variable called rice, or just use whatever your favorite food is, and assign an integer value to it. Next, print a brief sentence using concatenation and the string function to print the value of the variable. So in this example, I chose rice because I'm kind of obsessed with rice. I have it constantly. So I just put rice equals 2. And then I wrote print, I would like, as a string, note the space, plus str parentheses rice. So we're putting that variable name right in here. Plus, there's another space, orders of rice, please. So when we print that out, it says, I would like 2 orders of rice, please. And that sounds about my appetite, honestly. So I love food. So anyway, note the space after like and before orders, and then also pay close attention to the fact that we're putting that variable in the string. function. So let's practice this. So, does anybody, well, actually, I'll do pasta because I also love pasta. And let's do 7. All right. So first, make sure you're assigning a variable, assign it to an integer of your choice. Just make sure it's an integer. If you're doing this type of example, make sure it's an integer. And then we'll print parentheses. We'll do double quotes. I would like space and your quote, space plus space pasta, space plus space, double quotes again, space orders of rice, please. So you can see that when you're learning this, it is a little bit it's a little bit tedious to write it out and concatenate in this way. But we are going to be using this for certain concatenation. Instead, you can actually use commas and not have to worry about things like the spaces. But when we get into the next one, we're going to be using some input functions, and you can't actually use the commas there. So instead, we're going to practice it this way. So when we get to that point, we're ready to go. All right, is everybody good? I'm going to hit run first. Oh, I got an error. Did something wrong. What did I do wrong? Ah, somebody got it. Oh, good. You guys are so good. Fantastic. So what I did wrong here is we need to convert that integer to a string. So you're going to find often that this is kind of like an easy thing to forget, right? Like as you're working through, oh, I'll add in the variable, and you forget the fact that it's, the value in that variable is actually an integer or a float. And so you're going to get that error. It's going to remind you, oh man, like I gotta concatenate, I gotta convert it to a string. Perfect. You guys are right on top of it. And so we actually have a really helpful function to help us remember that. So if you made that same mistake there and you forgot to do string around that, and you're like, oh, what did I do wrong? And maybe you forgot that pasta was assigned an integer or something. You can easily check here, pasta, and you can use the type function to try to find out what data type it is. So we can check, we can quickly check the data type of the variable that is assigned to a variable using the type parentheses and parentheses function. So here are 3 examples. So yeah, good job. So someone gave an example in which they did, they created for their variable a 2-word variable, but they did not put the underscores in between. And then when they printed it, it didn't print out. So that's also another possible error to keep in mind. Great. All right, so let's practice. Let's look at this type function. So I gave 3 examples here. So you can see I did integer 1, and I put an integer, float 1, 3.14, string. I like pi, and then string 1. Excellent work, everyone. Fantastic. So we're going to do, just like we did with that length function, we're going to do print, and then you're going to do that open parentheses. You can see the ending parentheses here. And then you're going to do type, and then you're going to do the parentheses, and then you're going to put that variable here. And it's the same thing for each one. So you can see I just put the variable into the type function. And then this is what happens is it's telling you down here, okay, this first one, integer 1, that's an integer. The second one, float 1, that's a float. And this third one, string 1, that's a string. So like I mentioned before, there are definitely going to be some situations where you're like, I just forgot like what is stored within a specific variable. You know, you can check the variable or you can check the type, depending on what you're trying to do. So let's just try an example. Trying to think of a variable. Amazing equals everyone here. So created a variable. So that's step 1. And then step 2 is to do print, parentheses, type, parentheses, and then put amazing. And then you'll see the end parentheses, end parentheses. So I know I put a string in here, but assuming I didn't, let's see what it says. It says a string. So you can practice creating whatever you want here. You can play around with some different variables and some different integers and floats. Fantastic. All right, is everyone good? Because we are almost done. We are getting there. Awesome. You are all so amazing. Fantastic job. All right. Who's excited for a little bit of math? Yay. I kind of like math. Yeah. I know not everyone likes math. I'm sorry, but there's definitely a lot of math enthusiasm. That's awesome. All right. Arithmetic operators. So these are going to come into play from time to time. You can spend some, I'm just going to kind of cover over them briefly and cover over more of the more basic ones today, due to the amount of time that we have to cover them. So I had to write them in as comments. So just ignore this hashtag. That's just so I could make them as comments. So this would format nicely. So for addition, you'd use a plus sign, subtraction, minus sign, multiplication, and asterisk. You're using a slash for division. Integer division is 2 slashes. For a remainder, it's like the percentage symbol, exponentiation, and then negation. So this is like making a number negative. All right, and so we have a few examples. So this first one, I just tried a very basic addition, put a number together, a number of numbers together, and you can see it adds it up for you. All right, now we're going to print. I just put in 100 times 55. And then I kind of wanted to share a number of different examples. So like if we're creating variables, so in some cases you might do the math right in a print function, but you might also be storing a lot of your information in your variables, so your integers and your floats and variables. So I did num1 equals 2, num2 equals 3, and then I just printed it out to show how these different arithmetic operations would print out. So you can see you've got addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And that's how it prints out. So you have addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. So somebody asked a question, we have 2 division symbol, it means we have decimals. So like, assume you're talking about integer division, and this is something that like, basically if you had a situation where you needed the number the resulting number to be an integer. So like, for example, here, you can see like in regular division, it's 0 point with all these sixes after it. But instead, if you wanted a situation in which you needed an integer to accomplish a certain task, then you would there, and I'm not sure in the study group there, we might cover an example maybe, but I'm not sure that we're even going to cover just that far. But there are certain situations in which you might want an integer to result. It's kind of like maybe the cats example, like you can't have 2.2 cats or something like that. So you needed to result in a certain number of cats. So somebody in the comments did, integer division 5 and then / 2 equals 2. So it's going downwards in your math. So 5 divided by 2 would be 2.5, but integer division is taking it to the next lowest integer. Perfect. All right, and let's just practice one. Do cat 1 equals, we'll try not to divide the cats. So cat 1 equals 5. I don't know why we're even assigning cat variables at this point, but it's just for fun, right? So we can do print and then do cat 1 minus cat 2, and then the result is 2 because 5 minus 3 is 2. There's another, yeah, please don't cut the cat. Yeah, good point, Andrea. So you can also, in this instance, sometimes it's helpful to actually create like a third variable to store the mathematics instead. So like in these cases, we're printing and we're putting the math in, but there might be other cases where we just want to create a variable such as cat 3 equals, and then we just want to take this math here. So what I did was I created a third variable, cat 3 equals, and then we're putting the math here instead. So cat 1 minus cat 2. And then for the print function, you're just going to print that third variable you just created. And you can see it results exactly the same. So to answer a question, do you always have to print a result? So we're printing it out because we're learning and we want to practice the print function because it's going to be very, very valuable as we move forward. But there are definitely going to be situations once we get much deeper into functions, in which you're creating variables, but the actual variable doesn't actually print out. So like this actually would be a good example of that. So we're creating a variable cat 1, which is 5, and we're creating a variable cat 2, which equals 3, but we're never printing cat 1 or cat 2. We're just creating another variable with something that some activity happens, and then we're printing out that result. But in other situations, there might be a situation where you're just taking cat 3 and you're putting that cat 3 into some other function that is going to cover, I'm sorry, I'd lost my train of thought. Sorry. So at some points you're going to create a variable that is just going to be used in a function somewhere down the line and not actually printed out. And so we're going to, as we start to explore more, you'll start to see like a lot of interplay with our variables and our functions and different things that are happening. So definitely stay tuned. And I do see a question about whether we're having a session on libraries. And that's a very good question. So I did not plan to have a session specifically on libraries for the content sessions. Now, when we get to the collab sessions, there is going to be a session where we're going to learn about one particular library. So if you're planning to attend that, but also I know for a fact the person who asked this question is on the Beginner Python Slack channel. So I can actually connect you with when we did Beginner Python in 2020. Karen did a really amazing session on libraries that was really, truly spectacular. And so I can definitely connect you with that. So just reach out to me on Slack or remind me in the Slack channel. And I don't have the link handy, sorry, but if you can just join Slack, Shubi, maybe if you could just post that link for me in the chat again, just to make sure everyone's there. And then we can, I can share that video again, because that's definitely something worth watching. But I'll tell you this, that session was so amazing that I was like, I don't know that I could match this. She did such an amazing job. So, so yeah, perfect. So, Fernanda, I'll get to your question in just a moment. So I'm gonna close this out. So I have to say that you all did a really spectacular job. This is a first session, and some of these concepts, especially if you're just learning this for the first time, some of these concepts are a little bit challenging. They take some time to get used to. Definitely spend some time on your own, doing some, practicing some of these different concepts. We're going to need them in future sessions. We're going to need them constantly. So these concepts are not going away. So keep practicing, practice a lot over the next couple of weeks. Our next session is going to also be on a Thursday, July 29th, 8 p.m. Eastern. So same time as this session. We are going to, as I mentioned, really dive into like a good introduction of functions. That's going to include using the input function, and we're going to have a lot of fun with that. And please also be sure to join our Slack channel that has been posted. And I have to just say, overall, excellent work, everyone today, like excellent job. Like I just so amazed at how hard you all work today. And I'm going to, in a couple of moments, I'm actually gonna pause the recording or stop the recording, but I'm going to stick around for a few more minutes if anybody has any additional questions, but we're not quite there yet. So, so yeah, just as a reminder, yeah, so thank you. And I think we're good. And somebody had a question that I needed to cover, which I've lost in the chat because you guys are all so amazing. Oh, somebody asked about the collab session. So just for the collab sessions, the registration is not yet open. But what we're going to do, starting with the next session, is if you attend the next session, you're going to have first opportunity to register. So because those spots are going to be limited, we want to make sure if you're attending the content sessions, you're able to attend those collab sessions. And so you kind of just wait a couple more moments and definitely attend the next session, and we'll get that link out there. I think that there will still be slots even after we have that session. So if you can't make it for whatever reason, we'll be putting that on the Women Who Code events page and that sort of stuff as well. Shubi, if you could share that events page one more time, that would be great. And so I'm not going to close out yet, but I'm just going to say, amazing job, everyone. And I'm going to stick around for a few more moments and answer some questions that have popped in, and feel free to stick around. So I'm gonna stop sharing for the moment, and I'm going to stop the recording. Thank you all so much for joining us today.